and welcome back. I'm here with my friend James Boomhower, and I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Hi, good morning. From my neck of the woods, my name is James Boomhower. I've been a paramedic for over 20 years. I specialize in peer support and crisis intervention and am a licensed mental health counseling associate based out of Massachusetts and Rhode Island.
And it's Mental Health Awareness Month, so let's get into it.
As I talked about on Instagram, as I've talked about other places, we're aware enough. If I see another green ribbon on a post with no action, with no help, with no support, I'm gonna lose my mind. There is no question as to whether mental health is important. Even the biggest naysayer in the world can say it's important, although we could disagree on how important it is or what you do to make it better. I love that there's an awareness month for it, but I also feel like people, myself included at times, have just put a green ribbon up on social media and said, check, the box is all set. We're not talking about what it means to be aware. We're not talking about how to help our brothers and sisters in the first responder community. We're certainly not holding classes for therapists. Hey, here's how to work with a culturally informed community or become culturally informed yourself. We're just putting green ribbons out there, and that's it. Any thoughts on
It's
my
ki-
feelings about Mental Health Awareness
it's kind
Month?
of ick. It gives you kind of an icky feeling, doesn't it? When you see that green, I'm like, why?
I mean, yeah, from the sources that I follow, from the people I work with, like, of course, right? Like, we have a bunch of really good mental health professionals. We have a bunch of really good mental health peers and advocates, and, like, of course, myself included, right? I've already put posts up with green ribbons on them. But what is the takeaway? This month is not designed to be litter the world with green ribbons. This month is designed to be a focus on the mental health and well-being of everyone. However, in our culture, we really lean into the mental health and wellness of our brothers and sisters in the profession.
Yeah, for sure. So my thoughts on that are you're absolutely right. We are completely aware enough. Like we have beat the awareness horse to death. And
Mhm.
now it's time to take action. So, how are we doing that both as first responders and families at home? And I think we've talked about this before. Do we have a plan?
And I have been interviewed by Chelsea in a number of facets over the years, right? And I held this one pager called the Relationship Action Plan that I now have made a 7 pager because one page just wasn't enough. And if Mental Health Awareness Month teaches us nothing, it should at a minimum teach us to look inward. What does our mental health look like? Are we whole in this entire continuum of mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually? And what is the plan when things go sideways at work or at home? And one of the things that my responders have told me is they've been like, dude, you get it. This is great. But also, how do I tell my coworkers when home is on fire? And to be honest, even as a practicing critical care transport provider, I was like, oh, yeah, that'd be a really good thing to talk about, right? And like, how do we increase that relationship action plan, not only to how do I articulate what I need at home to my partner who may or may not be in the profession, but how do I also, in a way that is comfortable and authentic, kind of lob out to my team like, hey, listen, home is sideways. When I was on orientation at my critical care job, I had a meltdown in front of the Pyxis. Like the Pyxis wasn't working. For those of you non-medical, the Pyxis is that big locked machine that's like a medication ATM, right? And I need a fingerprint and I need, an iris scan and, a drop of my firstborn's blood and all of this stuff just to get a little pouch so I can go run and help people out in the field. And it just wasn't working. And I just lost it. And in this early setup, another human has to be in the room with you while you do this because it needs to be verified by more than one person. And they so eloquently said, you must feel so trapped. You're brand new here, so you don't have any solace. And you have no solace at home. So where do you get solace? And I think the relationship action plan does a great job of talking about how does Cameron come home to Chelsea? How does Chelsea articulate to Cameron what they need in the moment? But it leaves out unintentionally these other avenues that matter just as much. What do I do when I despise my partner that I'm going to go work a 3, 4, 5 day tour with? What do I do when I'm exhausted and have to articulate that to my team? How do I bring all of these pieces forward?
Yeah, that's a really good question. How do you do that?
I know, right? God. Well, I wonder if someone could answer that question for us. I think the beauty of the relationship action plan that, I'll share with Chelsea and we can, advertise other places to kind of remind people of its existence is use it. It is such a flexible tool that I may have unintentionally said, like, bring this home to your partner and not also you can use it at work. Also, you can have these conversations and dialogues. Also, it's just okay to tell people when your head's not in the game. Just have to know your level of comfortability with how you share that. There are some people I work with that were in my wedding, right? I can be pretty transparent with those people. There are some people I work with whose last name I don't know. So I don't know if I can be as transparent with those people, but can I say, hey, listen, I need another cup of coffee. I'm in the yellow, right? Like I can totally do the job, but like, bear with me. I'm going to be a slow start, this, that, and the other thing. And how can we work, especially in aviation and in helicopter EMS and HAA critical care? What's my CRM? How can I articulate to my team, hey, I'm here and I'm ready, but like I'm not as coiled to spring as I was 2 days ago. Like I'm a little looser than I was 2 days ago. And how can I say that in a way that doesn't say I'm unfit for duty, because that's not true. That doesn't say I can't do the job. It just says like I might need another cup of coffee or an earlier safety nap to get through that moment of time.
And I think having a plan at home, even in those times when you're going to work and you're low, and you can tell your spouse, "Hey, I'm going to work and I'm not feeling it," is really important.
Responders and their families are some of the most resilient humans I've ever met. I work with psychologists, especially Drew Anderson out of Albany, New York, who says that like humans are the most resilient population ever, right? Ever. I then say who do the humans call when the humans need help? Okay, they are exponentially more resilient than the people around them. And that's not to throw shade at the people that aren't responders. It's to remind you that you are already resilient. And sometimes the answer is put your head down, put your left foot and your right foot in front of one another for 2 more days, for 20 more hours. But then what are you going to do for yourself when that's over? Because there are absolutely times where the answer is you have to power through, right? I can't stop grad school midway through. I can't go home, in the middle of this cardiac arrest, right? Anything. So the question then becomes use the resilience, but then how do you rebuild the resilience? How do you then say, oh, but I'm totally not going to record with Chelsea on Monday because I'm after 3 nights. I'm going to see if we can do it on Tuesday, right? I'm going to make these micro adjustments within my life. I'm going to, I know this sounds terrifying for some people, but ask for help. Can a dog walker come and get my dog? Can a neighbor do this? Can a loved one help me with this thing just to buy me a little bit of wiggle room so I can rest and rebuild that resilience?
Yeah, so I actually have a low capacity plan, right? Like I'm
Ooh, I love it.
spent
Yeah.
at home and these are the things I'm going to do to that are easy, not difficult, not complex, just easy. We're going to order the food. We're going to, you know, not worry about whether the house is clean. We're going to run
Hmm.
the robot vacuum. We're going to use the paper plates. Like whatever it is to like bring the pressure off of mom while dad's at work or vice versa. Um it helps a lot, and then also prepare for the low capacity times, right? Like, right now, I'm calling it fire season nesting because I'm, like, getting my house in order before fire
Sure.
season comes. So,
Yeah.
I know that clutter and disorganization is gonna drive me mad, and so I'm making plans for that. I'm organizing now so that when fire season is here, I don't have to think about it, right? So, I agree with you. We have to have a plan for practically everything in this life.
I think what responders might call that is triage, right? Of like, okay, here we are, we're in the suck. We have overwhelmed our capacity, right? When do we use triage? In the medical and first responder community, it's only used when the need exceeds the ability of the helper, right? And in however way you want to distill that. So I teach a seminar called Stronger Together, where we literally focus on the merger of the responder and their partners and how we make that all work. And I had one couple a couple months ago say, yeah, but he works in the hospital, I work in the helicopter. Like, what do we do when XYZ happens? And well, I don't always agree with this every time. That one partnership uses ChatGPT to decide dinner. They're like, this is what Brian likes. This is what Susie likes. What's for dinner? And it'll be like, here are 3 recipes you can bang out in 10 minutes, or here are 2 of your favorite takeout joints. Now, I'm not saying create an AI agent that solves all your problems for you, but like, what a beautiful utilization of the brain space they have and the ability to say, you know what, we're both too decision fatigued to figure out chicken or steak. So we're going to pawn it off to this third party and we're going to go from there. And 2 days later, I got a text message from the organizer of that event that was like, here you go, ChatGPT meal plan for the win. And how
It's amazing.
easy it can be. Right, exactly. How valuable it is, whether or not you want to use AI. That's certainly not the focus of today's podcast. But how do you say, I know when my capacity is low. I'm not shaming myself for being human and having low capacity. So I'm going to use a low capacity plan. I'm going to pawn off to this other thing. I'm going to use the resources at my disposal. I love it.
Hey, listen, ChatGPT answers my sourdough questions for me, and I have no problem with it.
Perfect. Perfect.
Like, I can't figure out why my dough looks like this. Tell me. Um, but also the meal planning has been like a big game changer. So on Sunday, when Cameron gets home, we sit down and literally, like, what are we doing for dinner for the rest of the week? So that
Love it.
nobody's trying to make that decision today. It was made a week ago, right? When everybody was kind of able to make decisions and we weren't completely spread thin in the decision making process. Because we're
Yeah.
making micro decisions all day long, every day. Yeah, at work, at home, you know, when you've got teenagers, you're making decisions for them and they're asking you to make decisions and all this stuff. So it can be really overwhelming. So I love that the chat GPT gets to be the intermediary to that. It's awesome.
Meal planning gets a bad rap, and I hate to meal plan too. But what I do instead of meal plan is I just make more. Right? Can we just double up a recipe and then I'm meal planning for tomorrow? But at least, like you said, like you finish dinner and you're like, okay, at least dinner and tomorrow is done. And then if tomorrow goes by and I don't eat it, throw it in the freezer. Right? And that ability when you're like, I have nothing left in the tank, but I need food, there it is, right? It's something in the freezer. It's this, it's that. It's just something to help alleviate that load.
Or if you're like me and you forget to eat, right? If there's leftovers in the fridge, I'm going to go grab them for lunch and heat them up. But if I don't have that in my fridge, I'm not eating all day. And then we're hangry and it's just a whole mess. So,
Totally, totally.
right?
And this is something that I've really appreciated in my practice as a mental health professional. It's not my lived experience, so I didn't know until I got some training and worked with some other people. I'm not someone who forgets to eat. Like, believe me, I know you can only see this frame, but like Chelsea and I met in person. I am not a forget to eat kind of person. And it's okay, just as it's okay for me to mindfully say, do you need the 17th Oreo? It's just as okay for someone to set a reminder on their calendar to eat something, right? I know you don't want to, but like you're going to drink half a protein shake. You're going to do this, or you're going to do that. Because when our fundamentals are out of whack, our mental health gets out of whack with it every single time.
Yeah. We zone in on work. We zone in on kids. We zone in on things. And then we forget. And it can be basic life things that we need to sustain us. And I completely forget. Like, I'll zone in to whatever I'm doing and like, oh, it's 3 o'clock. I didn't eat lunch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah. So tell ChatGPT to tell your computer to tell you to stop working. I don't know.
Right, right. That is more access than I will give AI to my computer. But yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
If that's what you're using. Or just every day. Like I time block now because otherwise nothing's getting done, right? Um, but and that's another thing, like my calendar, it would probably make your mind explode because it's color coded and like down to the second almost of what needs to happen and where I need to be and what I need to be doing. So
You're hired. You let me know what you charge, and I will give you my life, and you can go to town. Go to town. My
hey,
wife would be
listen,
a happy person. Yeah.
I used to make appointments for $1 million dental practice, so you can't be messy with that, you know?
Sure. No, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So, life application, you know? We talked about this offline. I had a question in my inbox not that long ago from a firewife who was kind of frustrated, but kind of understanding of what's going on. She was asking me why EMS and the fire service in particularly are so dependent on alcohol culture. And what I took out of that conversation was she's frustrated because her firefighter feels like he needs to be at every event or get together with the firefighters. And she's left at home with the kids, even after shift when she's been 48, 72 hours, however long. And she's like, why does it have to be this way?
I want to put my couples therapist hat on for 1 second and highlight kind of frustrated, kind of understanding. And remind everyone that that Venn diagram can exist. I get it, and it's frustrating. So where's the middle? How do we make that work? Right. And I know that's not exactly her question, but just given your content on social media and who we're all trying to reach in both responders and their partners, and the challenges of being the partner, especially in complex fire services where you're gone for a really long chunk of time, knowing that that can exist and that being okay is really important, right? I get it. It also pisses me off. So how do we find the middle? You know, required reading, I say, kind of satirically for mental health professionals who really have a strong desire to be in the first responder field is a book by Ellen Kirchman called Counseling Cops. It's a very, very good book. It's a very easy read. She also does a bunch of like fiction, which I didn't realize until I really started to look into her. Like she has a whole like her version of Tom Clancy, right? I don't want to slander it or anything like that, but like a fiction on police psychology, which is great. But in her book, really geared towards mental health professionals, she talks about kind of the covenant of alcohol, right? And how we are battling something that has been going on for a really long time. For a long time, it wasn't okay for men to talk about their mental health. It wasn't okay to talk for responders to talk about their mental health. And because of that, we created systems and cultures that didn't talk about their mental health. And now we are trying to say, well, talk about your mental health. And what's happening is we've created this covenant of the bar. We've created this covenant of the restaurant. We know psychologically that we will open up more when food and drink is involved, right? On the crisis intervention side of the coin, we bring snacks for a reason, right? It helps engage your parasympathetic, pull you out of sympathetic nervous system land, and give you space to process and feel. Sometimes we're avoiding that altogether, but other times that's where unintentionally it all shows up. When I was 19 years old, let's say for the sake of the podcast, when I was 21 years old, I was going to the law enforcement dive bar, right? Where did all of the professionals go at the end of a day? They went to a place that was open at the end of shift, a place that had some semblance of food and drink, and that was almost always a bar. So you had this built in, we're meeting at this place, then we love us some tradition, so that's just where we meet. I would also argue that tradition is stability, right? Chaos loves stability to kind of center us and keep us right. So even if the day is wacky, if I know I'm going to Katie O'Byrne's, I know I'm going to XYZ bar and pub at the end of the shift, it can be a lighthouse. It can be a guiding light. And then we're just kind of trapped, right? Because it's unfair to say, well, make sure you only drink Guinness Zeros and have a low calorie chicken Caesar wrap. At the end of this melee, sometimes it can be really hard. So you then add that onto a shift that creates an expectation of essentially an informal debriefing point. And if you're not there, you're the other. Tricky,
Yeah. And that's what
tricky.
makes it understandable.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
understandable part. I get that he needs to be with his brothers,
Hmm.
right? That was kind of the unspoken thing. I
Hmm.
know that he needs to commiserate with these people because he needs to live with these people for however long. This is his shift family, but I'm expected to continue to hold the house.
Yeah,
And when do I get a break? That was like the whole, and how do I balance my feelings about that? Because
yeah.
I understand it, but it pisses me off.
Yeah. I mean, God, that's a really good start. Like, man, I would just say exactly what Chelsea said. And then timing matters. The 3 times we don't talk are the door, the bed, the baby, right? When we're just walking in or getting ready to walk out, when we're getting ready to go to sleep or do other extracurriculars in our bedroom, and in a perfect world when we're near really young kids, right? So if that happens, and then we come in for a landing and we've gotten some rest, we've done this, we've done that. Hey, we need to sit down and talk about this, right? Like we need to figure out a plan because I can't mentally sit with your 36 turning into a 42 because you're gone for an extra 6 hours. So if that is what's going to happen, and we can talk about whether or not that's a realistic ask, then what do I get on the back end? If we treat this like it's a 42-hour shift now, which for some people is fine, for some people is not, what do I get on the back end and how can I work to create that? And I do say that a lot of those get-togethers have a bit more flexibility than we think they do. Like you actually won't be kicked off your battalion if you don't go, right? One time, every other time, what have you. Truly, I've worked at some pretty toxic places and I have not gone to the thing and I was still employed the next day. So how can we work to right side this expectation from a need to a want? And that's not super fair because neither of those people are here to like give us all the pieces. But as I talk to the partner of the responder and say, what if we build this as now a 42-hour shift? What does that look like? And then what can you get on the back end? I can go to the responder and say, do we have to go every Tuesday? Every Tuesday. It's mandatory. No ifs, ands, or buts. We can't go an hour later. We can't do this. We can't do that. And oftentimes, when we add a little bit of questioning to that, we can build a little bit of wiggle room.
Yeah, totally agree.
There's another piece of this too is like as we all age, and everyone's life changes a little bit, right? I don't yet have a child, but I have a puppy. And as fun and cute and amazing as that is, like my group was understanding to that. Like, guys, I can't make it. I can't find dog care, right? Oh, well, what if we, I don't know, like, what if we just met up at the dog park, right? Like, that's a bit of a stretch, but as we grow and evolve, those traditions that I do feel are really important for crew cohesion and for all of these positive things, can they be changed? Can we move it to a place that allows kids so I can come home, pick up the kids and bring the kids because we're going to a coffee shop now instead of a bar, or we're going to a restaurant instead of, the open till 4 a.m., responder bar, right? Can we make adjustments on that end? And as unsurprising as this answer is going to be, we figure out those solutions when we sit down and say, I'm frustrated and I'm understanding what's that middle ground going to look like?
Well, and I would challenge the first responder in particularly that maybe the crew doesn't know. Have
Yeah.
you communicated to the crew that, hey, listen, I've got kids at home and I just need to be with them. My wife
Mhm.
needs me to be there, whatever, and created an opportunity to have a conversation about the change in the tradition?
Mhm.
I'm sure they're
Well,
not the only one with kids.
and I'll tell you as somebody who's sat in these rooms, right, who's newly married with no kids, right, double income, no kid, like I can already hear the angry DMs I'm gonna get. But what do we do is we come home, we go, oh, sorry I'm late. Chelsea, burp, 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 like on my ass about the whole thing, right? Chelsea's not my wife, just to be clear. But I know Cameron is somewhere, right? I don't want him to get upset, but it's often not said with the sincerity of I need help solving a problem. It's said with, well, God, I need this now. I have to be here because even the missus is riding me, or whomever is on my tail about X, Y, and Z. Instead of, dude, this is like really causing a problem at home. There's got to be a way that we can do this. This is valuable. This matters to me. How can we do this in a way that doesn't get me in more trouble when I get home and create more conflict when I get home? Because we rarely articulate the question in that way. And when you plop next to me at the bar and you're like, duh, the old ball and chain, I say, I'll drink to that instead of, how can I help you solve this problem? Because I'm not hearing it as that, right? I'm hearing it as just thud. It's been a long day. There's stuff at home. And my brain isn't wired to say, do you think I'm the problem? My brain in that moment says, well, thank God you're here. Let me help you. And not in a way that says, how can I prevent this in the future?
Right. Yeah. completely. I mean, we all do it. The women at
Hmm.
home do it too. I don't know if you know this.
Oh, I heard a rumor. I did. I had the tiniest inkling.
Oh man, he's got to go to work again. He likes the fire department more than he loves me. Like whatever it is that
Mhm.
we're bitching about, right? Like because we're
Yeah.
bitching. Let's be clear. We're not sitting around being like, "How do I solve this problem?" No.
Right. 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 Well, and I think that that is, to tie in to something else that I teach a lot of people I work with is helped, hurt, or hugged, right? And like, as the receiver of this, can you ask, like, do you just need me to hear you out? And like, bitch away. I'm here, locked in. Do you actually want some help? Can I offer some assistance or some guidance or my perspective to this? Or do you just need some physical contact, right? And
Mhm.
because we don't often bill it in that way of like, God, I really need help solving this problem, we bill it as, I really just need someone to hear this problem. Then we don't often get that feedback. We just get, commiseration from the other side.
It's so complicated. And I think too, we become resentful and that part like if we don't take care of business, right? We're not talking about it. The resentment can seep in and that for me is the part that I would like people to avoid entirely, right?
Mhm.
Because we had so much resentment in our relationship until we were able to be like, "Yo, this I understand why you're doing this because it's important, but it's pissing me off."
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
right? So,
And without turning this into couples therapy, because it's really unethical to do this via podcast, right? But I remind people of two things. You often hate the problem, not the person, right? You actually love your partner very much. You're just really mad that they go to the bar. And then we add all this other stuff onto it. Well, they go to the bar because they love the firehouse more than they love me. And
mhm,
so and so is going to be there and they're besties. And I'm always third. And then we just stack onto this thing. And then we have to remember that a good chunk of interpersonal and intermarital conflict is a younger self that's been harmed, right?
as my dad kinda checked out when I was 12.
Mhm.
And, I mean, he was in the periphery, but he just checked out. He was like, "I don't know what to do with this teenage girl, so I'm gonna not
Mhm.
pick her up on the days I'm supposed to, and I'm just gonna avoid her entirely." And so what that created for me was abandonment, right? And so every time Cameron would get called to an assignment and he'd be gone for, more than his regular shift, my brain said, "He's abandoning me." And I didn't realize that that was going on until 2020, and we got married in
Mhm.
2008. So
Mhm.
we went 12 years of me doing this. Oh, he's going to work. He's abandoning me. He doesn't love me. And my brain was telling me that's what was going on. But that's not what was going on. He was just going to work.
Yeah.
So there's your personal experience.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's one, it's really hard to figure out in the moment. It's almost impossible to figure it out in the moment if you haven't done work beforehand. And two, it doesn't change the fact that there is a problem. It helps you understand why this 2 on 10 problem feels like an 11 on 10 problem. All of the advice that we're giving right now does not apply if you're in an abusive or unsafe relationship. This is
Absolutely.
this is for relationships where I feel like I can talk to my partner, where I feel physically and emotionally safe with my partner. These rules do not apply if you feel as though you're in a relationship that is unsafe.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that was my personal experience. And I had done work before that. I was in therapy way before that. My parents got divorced. There was a lot. And I did some pretty destructive things in the realm of trying to get my dad's attention, right?
Mhm.
And that was just one piece that I guess we just never really got into of you're going to feel this way in your next relationship or this is how you deal with it when it comes up. And I think that that was
Mhm.
just because I was so young when I was realizing what was going on or we were in that therapy, like there was no reason to talk about what's going to happen 20 years later, right? Like
Yeah.
for what? So then when it came up, I actually had somebody ask me, they're like, "So why do you think you feel abandoned every time he leaves?"
Mhm. Yeah.
And I'm like, "Wait, what? What do you mean?" So, um, yeah, just would have been nice to know in 2008 instead of
Sure. Of
2020.
course.
You know
Right.
what?
Yeah.
Hindsight's 2020.
Yeah. And you bring up a really good point, right? Like we often talk about how like younger selves are triggered by these things, but like we don't always put it together. And that's not a failing on us. Like our brain is just not always wired to say, do you think this was when I was 8 and my dad didn't pick me up from Little League, right? Like and all of these things. And I'm certainly not using that to make light of yours. I'm just, kind of throwing one out there, right?
That is true.
We don't make those connections. I mean, mine is similar esque. My now wife and I were working towards engagement. I think we were like headed to like the getting engaged front. So we're still dating for all intents and purposes. And we'd had a couple fights here or there, busy with school and busy with work, and we just kind of been on edge. And my partner said, "Hey, I'm gonna go to the beach. I need some beach time. I'll see you later." And the physiologic response I got from hearing my partner say she was going to go to the beach, like pale, nauseous, like, oh my God, I love you. We can figure this out. Like, just like totally love bombed. And this poor girl's like covered in SPF with an umbrella on her shoulder. Like, what is happening? And a number of relationships ago, after some therapy and some, trying to figure it out, that partner from a number of relationships ago went to the beach to get the courage, quote unquote, to break up with me. So the beach trip, kind of aligned with all of these other things. My brain instantly was like, oh, you're getting dumped, and be ready for that. And you like this girl, you want to marry this girl, right? So this really disproportionate response, which led my partner to say like, where the hell did that come from? And once we put it together, right, I, talked about it with my therapist, and, we all kind of sat and talked with it for her to say like, oh my God, oh, all I needed to know was that's how you were feeling. And I would have, prepared so well. Like, I'm upset, but I love you. I'm not going anywhere. I just want some vitamin D and, some nice calm waves. I'm going to come back. We're going to be fine. Right. Which can sound really silly, for lack of a better term, if you don't understand that you're not repairing 30 whatever year old James. Like, you're actually going back to like a 20 something who was
Mhm.
deeply hurt, and his brain, incorrectly mind you, which is an important piece of this, put those two events together. One didn't have anything to do with the other, but that is just a good reminder of how our brains make those connections, and why we need to be so compassionate with understanding that that connection might not make sense, but it didn't make it any less real when I was experiencing it in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, because the fear of it happening again is real. I mean,
Yeah,
that
and I didn't know.
absolutely.
Yeah. I wasn't walking around every day being like, don't go to the beach, don't go to the beach, don't go to the beach, right? It was just when it happened, my brain was like, oh God, here we go again, right? And then, like you said, well, you're unlovable, you're never gonna find anyone, right? Like it just keeps stacking onto itself if you're not careful or catch it in the moment. And this may be another good thing for Mental Health Awareness Month of, can we recognize that when we are physiologically out of whack, we can be psychologically out of whack, and can I call that out? If I'm really, really short with my partner, if, my adorable 1 year old puppy is not doing all of their tricks perfectly and I'm getting mad or frustrated or whatever, can I take a step back and be like, oh right, you actually haven't slept in 30 hours. So you're still responsible for the outburst. You don't get a gimme, but maybe you can take a beat and say, ooh, I need to recognize that I'm shorter. I know why, and I know how I'm going to fix it later, but also how am I going to address it now? And just give yourself that beat and say, you're exhausted, deep, slow breath. How are we going to use our resilience to get us through this in a way we want to?
Yeah, and if you know that you're having a moment when you're tired or something's frustrating or whatever, we've gotten really good about being like, "Yo, I haven't slept in, like, 24 hours. I need
Hmm.
some sleep," or, "I might be a
Hmm.
little bit more short," or, I might be more quiet," or whatever, and recognizing that and communicating that, I think for us has been a huge game changer.
Yeah,
And with the kids, like, Cameron's really good about, like, "Yo, I had a really long shift. I'm gonna be more tired today," or, you might find me to be a little bit more irritable, like, "Just know it's not you. It's me."
totally. Totally. And that debrief, if you will, is also so important of like, hey, we did the thing. We all joke like my poor wife married a couples counselor, right? Like she didn't have to do that, right? And I am not perfect, and I will cite personal experiences in session to bring up points and things like that. Not in an unethical or inappropriate way, but to highlight, things we're talking about. And sometimes that means walking back into the bedroom and saying like, hey, I'm really sorry for how I handled that. You don't deserve to be spoken to in that manner, and I will do better. And the caveat there is you have to do better. That can't just be your like pseudo confessional every time where you actually don't make any change. But oftentimes we assume our partner knows, oh, I didn't mean anything by it, I was gassed. Or honestly, sometimes is a little too marred with shame to go back out and hash that out again. And that, in my opinion, is really what sets to build the resentment. If we don't call that out, it just kind of fills this little
Mhm.
resentment bin that we have. And then before we know it, we're in couples therapy, but we're hashing out an argument we had 15 years ago.
So the other thing that we started doing was Cameron will tell me like, "Hey, I had a easy shift, not so great shift, really
Hmm.
terrible shift," before he even leaves the station. That is a conversation that is happening so that I know how he's going to be before he ever gets here. That's
Love
always nice
that.
too.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk a lot about the safe word, right? About like what you say when things are going sideways. But can you give that almost like traffic light, green light, yellow light, red light, right? I think too, and this again is it could very well be my bias as someone who does the job and who's married to someone who does the job. Like it's okay to not do a ton of calls, not have a ton of really emotional calls, really stressful calls, and still be smoked. Like, I did 2 calls on, a one night tour, which is really rare for where I work. But I slept crappy or like I over caffeinated before the shift, right? So like I'm still smoked. And my joke with responder couples is like you don't need the CAD data to prove it, right? It just is. Because sometimes I've done 3, 4, 5. I work in HEMS for the responders listening, right? So those are longer shifts than they sound in like 911 world, but maybe I'm fine. Maybe like I don't know, I got the right nap and took all my stuff and feel great. Other times I can do 0 calls and feel terrible. So that idea of really trying to build that space is helpful.
Yeah, I don't have to guess about what's coming through my door when it comes in, and I can kind of
Yeah,
prepare for, okay, yeah, he's gonna be tired. He's not gonna wanna go and do the thing right away. He's gonna want to eat and have maybe a 15-minute nap or whatever we've built into the recovery plan, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So
love it.
everything has a plan, guys, is
That's it. Yeah,
is the
yep,
whole premise of the conversation.
exactly, exactly.
And that's how we take care of our mental health, both for ourselves and our spouse.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Having
I
a
love
plan.
it.
Okay, well, this has been fantastic. Is there anything you wanna add at the end?
No, I just want to commend you for the work that you're doing and, really leaning into all parts of the first responder community. And we would be naive to think that that doesn't include our spouses, our partners, our families. And you do great work there. Just remember to take good care of one another. And while there is a pile of training you can take, and maybe I can come on another day and we can talk about all the training you can take, you don't need a ton of training to ask someone genuinely if they're okay and to help them find resources.
And James is an excellent resource, just so
And
everybody
I try.
knows.
Yeah,
You
and I
you
try.
didn't
I absolutely, yeah.
if you didn't gather that from this conversation.
I'm one of many, I'll say. I think that, the beauty of
Yes.
doing this work and the beauty of, meeting people through social media and through podcasting and things like that is you really do build a community and you can really work to ensure that you have people that excel in your weak spots or help bolster your metaphorical roster. Right. Of like, I can't do X, Y, or Z, but I know somebody who can, right? Or I have somebody who specializes in this, or you want to do parts work, you should go over here, right? And all of these things. So it's great to be one of many. It's a cool fraternity to be in for sure.
Yeah, it's been I mean, having all the resources that we have, like, it's been awesome.
Yeah.
So I have a list of resources, and where do we find you online?
So you can find me at stayfitforduty.org. That is spelled STAYFIT, the number 4, DUTY.org. And I'm on all the socials at stay underscore FIT, the number 4, DUTY. Stay fit for duty.
Alright. Well, thank you so much. This has been
Thank
fantastic.
you.
It's been really cool catching up. And we'll talk again. I think, yes, getting on and talking about the resources would be fantastic.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. I'll talk to you. Thank you so much. Give everyone my best.